Yes, yeah, yes, of
You
course
were
I
on a show with me Monday, but I
and
think that is that must be a senior moment I'm having.
we saw each other at a funeral in St. George as well this year.
Right, right, right. You see, but time is going by so quickly, Don, that you can't remember if it was this year, last year, or 2 years, or 10 years ago. Because time is flying, time is really going by quickly. But good to see you again tonight, and I
Mhm,
look forward to what you're going to be sharing with us this evening.
mhm.
Um, I honor you and your father's memory. I do remember the significant contribution he made. He was a no nonsense person, and I dare say he had his challenges. But the only mistake he made, though, Don,
Mhm.
was that he allowed them to put him in a Mercedes Benz and not a BMW. But anyhow, we can leave that for another subject another time. Good to see you, my friend. God bless you, man. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Yeah, doing. I as I was hopping in backstage just now, I was hearing you talk very passionately about independent candidates. We both have run independent candidacies in the past. We've both got
Yes.
figure votes, which is quite unheard of. You have like
Yeah.
some of the most famous Bajans in history, like the mighty Gabby. He ran independent, only got 6 votes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
people like you and I that come out here, do this activism work completely for free all year round, regardless of what political season it is. People like us could really make great candidates.
Well, if I'll give it some thought. I'll give it some thought. Let me put it to you that way. But they seem to be wanting to move toward the younger ones. They don't seem to think that I am young. I feel young, and I don't think I look old. I think I look young, and I had a compliment paid to me some time ago, not long ago. I was walking through the mall with my grandchildren, and folk were telling me about my children, so I felt really good.
Yeah.
But good to have you this evening.
Yeah, definitely. Hmm.
So what have we got to engage this evening? I'm just trying to check back on, because so many things are happening at the moment, Don. The
Hmm.
impact of the fuel prices. I think
Yeah.
we want to chat a little bit about that, and I think you might have heard me touch a bit on that. But your view in this, because you're a young man, fuel prices are up. How do you think that's going to impact the cost of living? And then at the end of the day, who really pays the price for this increase?
Well, Dr. Ferdinand, this is a topic that has been of much concern for a long time. They had a young man by the name of Olu Jimmy Clark. He started talking about the fuel prices quite a number of years ago, even pre-COVID. His videos went viral on social media. Mia Motley gave him a call, and he ended up getting fired from his job from it. And these were fuel
Wow.
prices multiple years ago. This is when fuel is about 30% cheaper than it is now, that we were still complaining about it. And the most important and most concerning part about this whole thing, Doctor, is that about 75% of the cost of fuel in Barbados is just taxes. We're not,
Wow.
oil companies are making huge profits here in Barbados, Dr. Ferdinand. Mia Motley is making huge profits here in Barbados for this fuel. So that's why when you see all around the world, global oil prices are tanking right now. They're falling.
Yes,
Both
they
gas
are.
throughout the world are going. Look at the news article you have there on the screen. A 4-year low, Dr. Ferdinand. But
Yes,
our
yes.
never dropped once. That they're not dropping. So at the end of the day, we really have to question why on earth are our fuel prices being artificially held at such a high standard. I'm not exactly sure where we rank right now, but the last time I checked, we had the third highest gas price in the entire world. We were behind only Hong Kong and one other country, I believe it is. And while we have such vast oil reserves in Venezuela, Guyana, and all these right next door, it absolutely makes no sense, Dr. Ferdinand. At the end of the day, this decreases disposable income for the average Bajan. It's gonna, if fuel prices are up, it's gonna force the PSVs, mainly like ZRs and minibuses. They're gonna be squeezed tightly. They're gonna have pressure on them to increase bus prices for the everyday Bajan, and it's gonna in turn just have a huge inflation effect. Think about it, Dr. Ferdinand. It doesn't matter what your business is, it doesn't matter what industry you are in. A large portion of your expenses are gas. Let's say you
Yes, yes.
sell clothes. you have to drive to Sheraton or drive to the port to collect your stock, drive back home. If you do deliveries, you're gonna have to start charging more for deliveries.
Yep.
It really
Yep.
doesn't matter what you are. So if you're delivering anything, goods, services of any kind, those prices are gonna have to go up. So with gas prices going up, it sends up the price of everything in the entire economy. And this is not the time for it. Here in Barbados, we're struggling more than most. It almost seems unfair, Dr. Ferdinand. Every time the world has a recession and then a recovery. But here in Barbados, we don't ever get the recovery part. We're never getting the recovery part of these recessions. Since the COVID pandemic, tourism has slightly come back, but we're still suffering more than the rest of the world are. And this gas price increase is just another example of that.
Well, Don, one of the things that has concerned me, because we seem to put all of our eggs in one basket, and that basket is the basket of tourism. And when one considers what has been happening recently in Barbados in terms of the crime and the violence and the gang violence, the shootings, the killings, I am holding my breath. And I'm being very honest with you as to when the United States, Canada, Europe, or the UK are going to issue travel advisories to Barbados.
Uh,
One has already been issued for Trinidad and Tobago. One has already been issued for Jamaica. And if a travel advisory is issued for Barbados and our tourism sector is where we are placing all of our eggs,
mhm.
you can see what's going to happen here.
Yeah, I mean, it's the crime of violence is definitely going to be the biggest concern to tourism. And now I would think a close second is the cost of living. Tourists are
Yes.
coming to the Caribbean expecting luscious white sand beaches, and Dr. Ferdinand, we can indeed provide that. But they're not expecting prices almost double and triple what they're paying at home.
No,
They're
no.
if they go into Burger King in America, they can buy a sandwich for $1 US. Here in Barbados, the same exact Whopper Junior costs 8 Bajan. That's four
For
times
US dollars.
$4 US.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, a lot of the Facebook groups and a lot of the social media comments about Barbados are that I loved it, the beaches were cool, but I wouldn't really go back. And Barbados is really does need that type of repeat tourism. Like back in the day, 20, 30 years ago, you used to hear about all these tourists. Oh, I've been coming to Barbados every year for the past 20 years. We love it so much. But you're going to have less and less of that because every single time they come, they notice that the prices of everything gone up 15% and the murder rate gone up 15%. They're having shootings in broad daylight all over the place.
Yeah.
And
And robberies in broad daylight as well.
exactly. So we really have to question those in charge. They always say, oh, there's no short term fix or there's no quick fix to crime. But they've been saying that since 2018, Dr. Ferdinand. And the murder rate has gone up every single year since then. So is it no short term fix? Or do you not have any fix at all? That is the
Well,
question.
I've been asking myself because it was even before 2018, because they were highly critical of the government of the day in
That's
their
why.
inability to handle, I mean, as far back as 2013, probably even go back before that, of the then government to the day handling. And nobody is suggesting that crime is an easy matter to address, but one has to have a plan.
Mhm.
And what is becoming glaringly obvious is that it seems no matter what area you point in where this government is concerned, do they have a plan?
They
It's like they are shooting from the hip, so to speak.
Yeah, I think that their plan is to just blame the DLP. I'll never forget Chad Blackman in one of his campaign rallies over the last week or so. He mentioned the fact that we have to blame the DLP for so many guns being imported into Barbados during their tenure. And Dr. Ferdinand, at this point, what, May 2018? We're in May 2025. That's 7 years ago. How are we still blaming them for for the
Yeah,
illegal?
exactly.
Um,
Exactly, and blaming them for inoperative systems at the port and all of that. But you've been in office for 7 years. Don. One of the things that when I campaigned, one of the things that I said repeatedly was that I don't credit any government with anything because what you do is your job. None of
mhm,
us get any big credit for our jobs until we come to retirement. It's only when you come to retirement after 40 years of doing your job that people hail you and say what a great job you've done. So if you want to hear what a great job you've done, maybe the government should retire, and maybe then they would hear, maybe they would hear something. But as long look, when I worked with companies, I did my job.
Mm,
And I wasn't looking for anything, and nobody came in every day and told me, "Well, you're doing good," and pat me on. I did my job. It is the job of the government to look after lighting, housing, roads, water, all the. That's your
mm,
job. We pay you to do that. You're doing us a favor.
mm.
That's your
Yeah.
job.
Yes, indeed. So, I mean, at the end of the day, all they can be credited for doing their job with is constantly increasing pricing, namely the gas pricing this month. Next month, it can be something different. The month after that, it can be something different. And I mean, there's so many inefficiencies in this government. Like, we could talk about the Hope housing crisis, we could talk about anything. All of these things are draining millions and millions and millions of dollars out of Beijing's pockets. The millions of dollars that have been siphoned off from the whole project could have been used to build roads, could have been used to build schools, could have been used to build healthcare facilities, all of which are in dire straits, Dr. Ferdinand. So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, there is absolutely nothing this government, even if they wanted the slightest pat on the back, what? Like, for what? What do they deserve a pat on the back for?
Well, with fuel prices going up, and you touched on it a few minutes ago, with the fuel prices going up because our food costs in Barbados is quite high, and you made mention of some of the comments that some of the tourists have made. I am in a particular tourism area on a fairly regular basis, and sometimes I interact with the tourists.
Hmm.
And the consistent complaint that I have received is how expensive Barbados is. And I have
Correct.
proven that myself because I have journeyed with regularity to the Cayman Islands. And I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that Barbados is more expensive than Grand Cayman. And I'm telling you that without any hope of anybody
They definitely
arguing or
one
debating that with me.
of the expensive places in the world.
Okay. Now, if fuel prices are up, because if it's up at the pump, it means that diesel fuel is up. The delivery trucks, the companies like Spring Garden Foods that have to send out their food, the companies that have to deliver the drinks, the Pine Hill Dairy that have to deliver their milks and juices, all these companies that are involved. I used to work with Alamat. All of them they're not going to absorb that increase in cost. They are going to pass it on. And doesn't that therefore have an overall impact on the increase, or should I say, on the cost of living for Barbadians?
Yeah, definitely. This government does a great job. If it's one thing they could get a pat on the back for, is PR. Their Myanmar's PR and this government's PR is quite good. They have a good PR team. They've done a great job of convincing you, the Beijing public, that a lot of the inflation that's happened over their tenure has to do with imported inflation. They're saying, oh, prices all over the world are going up. But that's not necessarily.
Always the excuse.
There are a lot of domestic policies that Mia Motley herself has implemented that are driving prices up, Dr. Ferdinand. There's so many different things. This government, you need to keep emphasizing this. Remember this if you don't remember anything else, Barbados. Mia Motley has borrowed more money than any other prime minister in Barbados history. The second
That's
thing,
correct.
if you don't remember anything else, Mia Motley has collected more taxes than any other prime minister in Barbados' history. These are facts. These are not opinions. These are cold, hard facts. So at the end of
But
the day, we really need to think about what is being done with this money. Are they collecting all this tax money just to waste it away in the Hope project? They had over $26 million in reruns in the Hope project. And all of these inefficiencies, all of this embezzlement, all of this corruption, all of this thieving really just goes to make life significantly harder for the regular Bajan. Why on earth are you and I paying 75% of our price for gas goes straight to the government? ExxonMobil or Shell or Rubis or whoever is selling the gas, they're making peanuts compared to Mia Motley. How on earth is the government making more than a business on their product? I think that that's absolutely outrageous, and there's not enough said about it.
and the thing about it is, Don, when you look at the people that have to pay for this,
Mhm.
I was in the supermarket today, and honestly, I mean this with all of my heart. maybe I'm too emotional. I thought I was a harsh guy. I thought I was a firm, a man. You can, a man. But I was in a supermarket today in a line, and there was a gentleman ahead of me. He wasn't dressed very well.
Mm-hmm.
You could see that he's come from a poor environment. You can see this,
Yeah.
and I'm not one to subscribe to judging a book by its cover, but reality is reality. And when I looked, he put some things on the counter, and then I saw him start to pull out one after the other and just push them back to the end of the counter where you would have put them on. And I
Mm-hmm.
stood there, and I must tell you the truth. I said to the Lord, I wish I had enough that I could have just stepped forward and pushed those back on his tray and told him go ahead. But this is something I'm seeing happening quite often.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. It's as we were talking about. No, that goes back to fuel prices as well. A lot of the food, because we don't have great agriculture at the moment, great Ministry of Agriculture. A lot of the food is imported. If fuel prices are going up, Massey is gonna have to pay to a lot more in freight from the port to all of their various locations, and they're gonna pass that cost on to us. They're not gonna
Yes.
I, Dr. Ferdinand, in passing that cost on to
No.
us. Even, yeah, like think about even people, simple small business entrepreneurs, like people with a weed whacker or a blower, anything like that. All of these things take gas and diesel. If
Yes. Yes.
if, if he was charging $70 to cut a lawn before, now he gonna have to charge 80 or 90 or eat the increase in fuel. He might not be able to get as much jobs at 80 or $90, and now his small economy with himself and his family is faltering. So at the end of the day, all of these things might be small to the person outside looking in, but fuel is one of the most important things that drives this 2025 Beijing economy and economies all around the world. Fuel, gasoline, diesel, whatever you want to call it, is vital for every single thing. Whether you don't have a car and you catch any bus, or whether you got 40 cars and you got to fuel all of them, this fuel increase is going to impact you. And even if you don't, the groceries that you buy are being affected by the fuel price. The clothes that you buy are being affected by the fuel price. Everything is being affected. What on earth is Mia Motley doing with all these taxes that she is putting on things? The cost of fuel, as we've said before, is drastically dropping all around the world. The cost of crude oil has dropped. The cost of gasoline has dropped. The cost of diesel has dropped. But yet here in Barbados, all we hear, oh, 15-cent increase, 20-cent increase, 30-cent increase. There's never, ever a decrease. These artificially high prices are literally just made to oppress us and make us suffer, Dr. Ferdinand.
And we continuously hear this excuse. You mentioned it, these excuses of international matters. Things are this way all over the world. But I say because it's that way, we don't have to accept that. To me, leadership is about being able to navigate a different type of pathway, so to speak, and let things be different where the country is concerned. You mentioned about the taxes. I mean, when Madam Motley was in opposition, she opposed the then government's increase of the value-added tax, which was supposed to be a temporary matter, to 17.5%. And I realized coming to office, you didn't decrease it. Why didn't you decrease the value-added tax that would help bring down the cost of living in the country? Because everybody is paying that higher level, and even in terms of the fuel that people would spend, when you now take that VAT and add it to a 25-cent increase on a tin of sardines in the supermarket, and you compile that with a basket of goods, you can see what's going to happen at the cashier's counter.
Yeah, definitely. There's so much cost of living crisis all over Barbados. The poor feeling it, the rich are feeling it, everybody is feeling it. And as me and Motley announced yesterday, it looks like we can get another 5 years of it coming again here now.
Well, again, I smile. I smile because I've heard enough excuses coming from the international area, because this is happening. The UK is actually looking to bring their prices, they haven't already done it, their fuel prices down. I read that article. I was just trying to find it not very long ago. I think it was just this week or late last week. The United Kingdom raised the matter to bring the prices down. Of course, we don't have a lot of the expenditure that they have because they have to do heating and so on when it's cold, and they have to run AC systems. They're a different temperature, I mean, a different climatic zone than we are. But at the end of the day, we have a lot of costs. Thank you very much, Dave. UK prices poised to fall. And notice the word there, Don, further, which means they were falling already. And
For
as a result of oil prices tumbling.
mm-hmm.
So how can our prices be going up, and you are going to project the idea that we're a government that cares?
Exactly. It just proves that the prices are artificially inflated. Like, I really want y'all to think about this, For every single dollar that you spend in fuel, over 75 cents from that dollar are going to Mia Motley, are going to the government, are going to taxes. Over 75 cents from every
Wow. Wow.
dollar. That is shocking. How on earth is the government making more on a product than the business selling the product?
63.
Unheard of.
I just saw there. Don't shift that, Dave. A a price, a barrel of Brent crude, $63.86. I don't remember when we last saw oil prices that low.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I've seen it down at $80 a barrel, and our gas was down. Our gas was down when it was at $80 a barrel. But Don, our gas currently stands, and I hope you're a young man, you're a mathematician, so please help me.
Mm-hmm.
A gallon is 3.79 liters.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we are paying $3.89 a liter. Would I be correct that if I had to calculate the price of a gallon of gas, it would be the $3.89 multiplied by the 379,
And that would be 14
which is a gallon,
4 cents.
and that would be $14.75 Barbados,
Correct.
$7.26 US.
Right. So do we
Don,
for how much?
gas in Grand Cayman ranges between $5.81 US to $6.60 US, gas and diesel.
But remember, I started this conversation, Dr. Ferdinand was saying, I believe we have the second highest gas price in the whole world. In the whole world, in the
And the
whole
highest
world.
in the Caribbean.
By far the highest in the
Highest in
Caribbean.
the Caribbean.
The current national
Highest in the
average
Caribbean.
for a gallon of regular gas in America is $3.20 US. So that's $6.40 Beijing. And you and I just worked
And
out that our price is $14.75, whereas America's price is only $6.40. So yes, this perfectly aligns with the fact that yes, Barbados has the second or third highest gas price in the entire world, and we sit next to two of some of the largest oil deposits in the world. Venezuela, I believe, is literally the largest oil deposit, and Guyana is one of the biggest discoveries in the last decade. And yet we can't seem to just be able to ship it right here and get more affordable prices. Even if we did, that was a poor
well,
argument. But even if we did, because
well,
oil has to be.
to be honest with you,
Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, I said even if we did, one of the things I remember, we were supposed to be drilling oil off Barbados because Barbados is supposed to have oil reserves off
Mm-hmm.
of Barbados. But of course, the Prime Minister can't engage that because she has been a climate change advocate, fossil fuel advocate. So she can't engage that at all.
Yeah.
So, but
He,
listen, Don, yeah, your closing comment. Go right ahead. Let
yeah,
me
she.
give it because we have to move to the next one.
Oh, you got another guest coming? No problem.
Yeah,
But
no,
she
but you go ahead and make your final comments. That's fine.
Yes, because she did indeed. She loves to play Captain Planet. She traveled all the way around the world and trying to champion this climate change cause, you know. And now at the end of the day, she was indeed trying to bring fracking into Barbados. But I just want to touch a little bit about her trying to run for a third term before I leave. If we got like an extra 90 seconds to spare.
I can give you 90 seconds.
So, as we all know, she was obviously trying her very best to get this UN job, and it looks like it's fallen through, Dr. Ferdinand. Why on earth would she have wanted a second term? A third term, sorry. Why run Barbados when you could go and run the whole world? So it seems that all of this climate change, hurrah and hoopla, and try to convincing that she was doing has fallen on deaf ears. The American government, who fund the majority of the UN, Donald Trump, he could care less about climate change right now. So all of that political posturing and pandering that she was doing to this woke agenda about, oh yes, we can save the planet, this and that, while inviting people to explore fracking here in Barbados, I'm glad people are finally seeing through it. She hasn't identified a successor. Contrary to popular belief, there's a ton of fighting within the
Oh
BLP.
yes.
They're
Oh
just a lot
yes.
better at hiding it than the DLP are. I wish the DLP could try to keep their squabbles a little more internal, but
Yeah.
they're a bit better. And Kimar Stewart actually made the great point today in a video that she just saw Dr. Keith Rowley. His party took an absolute thrashing after he stepped down, and then they call elections. So I guess she doesn't want to the
And
BLP
and
here.
and the Prime Minister of Canada,
Yes,
one of
exactly.
her good buddies.
Yes.
One of her good buddies. Well,
Ex-
Don, listen, boy, we're out of time, but I would love to have you back on the program. We have to arrange that with Marcia, because if there's one
yes,
thing I always enjoy is the comments of the younger people
definitely.
that are coming on
Mhm.
through coming up through the ranks, because it says to us that there's a lot of hope for our country because of the quality of young people. We have some very, very good young people, young men, very good young women that are coming up through the ranks. And I certainly want to thank you. I consider you to be one of those people, and just want to encourage you to keep at it, and don't give up. Don't let anything frustrate you and take you away from that goal. All right.